Carcassonne, a fortress city. Today, we will be talking about Carcassonne, a fortress city in the south of France. It isn't often that a place can boldly claim roots dating back to the Neolithic area, but for Carcassonne, France, this is the case. From ancient origins to modern wonder, this city is well established in the history books and is most notable for Cite Carcassonne, the medieval citadel on a hill that towers over the city proper. So let's go on a tour of this walled stronghold and take a deep look at what makes it so special. And be sure to stay till the end of the video to hear how to spend your trip after you're done with the iconic streets of the medieval city. Starting at the western fortress gates, Porte de Laude, visitors find an impressive entrance atop a somewhat difficult trek. The Porte de Laude entrance is not the only way into La Cité. In fact, it isn't even the most popular entrance, but it is certainly a scenic one. As you climb the hill to the city, be sure to glance back at the Iote River and the lower city to get some unique perspective of what this place must have felt like to citizens hundreds of years ago. And keep that slice of perspective while passing under the semicircle gateway, because that truly is just the beginning of a magical journey. Once through, walk south and find the Basilique Saint-Nazaire. This site has been used as a place of worship for well into the city's history. But the Gothic Romanesque style building that stands today was constructed in the 13th century. Its unique exterior architecture is fun to marvel at, and the interior is equally as splendid. Stained glass mosaics give the space everything you could want out of a classic church. One of the more modern features of this very old city is the Jean Deschamps Theater. Built in the 1900s, this open-air theater is right next to the Basilique and provides a great space for concerts and events. One notable event is the Festival de Carcassonne, which hosts a variety of worldwide acts to celebrate the summer in a venue like no other. There really is nothing more surreal than listening to today's biggest stars live from within a medieval citadel. Just a stone's throw away, the Hôtel de la Cite Carcassonne is the perfect place to stay on your trip. It may sound unbelievable, but this is an actual 5-star hotel within the walls of an old city. Glamorous views and an atmosphere that can't be found anywhere else in the world are sure to entice any visitor. And while this isn't a must-stop destination to see, it is well worth your consideration to stay overnight, especially when you realize just how close you are to living history. Just east of all of this is the Musée de l'École, or the School Museum. Don't worry, no one is going to give you a test, but you will have a chance to learn about how French schools looked in years past. A full classroom setup has been recreated to simulate the daily life of a French school, and is supplemented with a collection's worth of materials from various eras, dating back to the 1880s. Going north up the street, Raymond Roger Trencavel, you will find the Jean-Pierre Croix-Mai-Rivière monument. Citizens and visitors alike have this man to thank for the preservation of Carcassonne today, as his actions kept the fortified city from being destroyed in the 19th century by the French government. Today, his monument serves as a reminder to all of the importance of preserving history. A day of exploring can leave anyone famished, so while at the statue, a detour for some food isn't a bad idea. Virtually every direction will lead you to some top-notch eateries. Carcassonne typically had a poultry-heavy diet, so be on the lookout for some of the local specialties. Duck and goose confits are popular, as is escargot, but the absolute favorite of the city has to be cassoulet. That said, there are plenty of options, and Carcassonne prides itself on cuisine, so there really isn't any going wrong. Once you are finished eating, travel slightly westward to the Château des Ramparts. This is the main event, as the castle clearly gives the fortress on a hill its purpose. Complete with a moat and drawbridge, viewing this massive structure can be very intimidating. But never fear, a visit within the castle also provides a nice lesson on the chateau's place in the city's history and will help contextualize much of your visit. This truly is a must-see. Nearby, La Grande Puet is an interesting stop for two reasons. Their first is that this well serves as an interesting practical artifact in the city's history. These sage walls are incredibly deep and incredibly old vestiges of a forgotten way of life. The more fascinating reason, though, is the mythology surrounding the well. Legend has it that the Visigoths stashed the treasure of Solomon inside this well to hide it from invaders seeking to loot and plunder. Whether they did it or not, or if there was really any treasure at all, is hard to say. No treasure has ever been found, and there is far more mystery here than answers. But it is a fascinating part of Carcassonne's history nonetheless. One of the darker aspects of French history is the Inquisition, when Catholic inquisitors were sent to cities like Carcassonne to root out heresy against the church. But just because a place has a dark past doesn't mean we should shy away from learning about it. Quite the opposite. At the Musée de l'Inquisition, displays of the torturous devices used by inquisitors are shown and explained to educate visitors about the horrors of medieval Europe. This museum carries a lot of weight in the south of France, which at times subject to the whims of the Inquisition. The legacy of this museum sheds light on an often neglected subject. The final point of interest in the city is Porte Narbonne, the eastward-facing gate of the city. This is actually the most popular of the city's gates and is often an entrance, but like Porte de l'Aude, can both be entered and exited. Cross over its drawbridge and say goodbye to the Dame Carcasse statue that greets visitors to complete your journey inside the city's walls. Once outside, if you are up to it, visit the nearby cemetery where the graves of those departed sit waiting for visitors' respects. Although this can seem somewhat morbid, there is something very serene about appreciating the lives of those who rest under the city's watchful eye. The ornate graves and mausoleums serve as a candid reminder about the beauty of life and provide an interesting accent to a site so dedicated to its place in history. In a way, it feels incomplete to celebrate Carcassonne without also remembering the people who gave it life. Clearly, this fortress on a hill is worthy of its UNESCO status. However you spend your time, your visit to La Cite Carcassonne is sure to be an unforgettable one. As promised, there is plenty more to explore in the hills outside the city as well, as they are filled with history all on its own. A trip to Les Quartiers Château de Les Tours showcases the ruins of 4 castles in the hills north of Carcassonne. This site is less about what you do see and more about what you don't. Visitors are forced to imagine, from the limited pieces left, what was once a fixture of this French countryside. If nothing else, these structures serve as an excuse to explore the natural beauty of the region that exists right outside civilization. And while the view is beautiful from atop the mountain, the interior of these hills is even more spectacular. Geoffrey Giant de Cabrenskmine is a natural cavern that is also in the hills north of the city, and frequently cited as one of the best cave systems in Europe. Hence, the brave of heart can venture out on the grass balcony to view the immense cavern below, which reaches depths of 250 meters. So whether it's inside the city's walls or exploring the natural beauty that surrounds them, a trip to Carcassonne is well worth it. What aspects of France's medieval past interest you most? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, where to next?